First Things First is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Welcome back. We'll get to the Rams and the Seahawks in a second, but first Packers in Washington. Terry McLaurin getting turned around, but still comes up with an amazing one-handed touchdown snag.
He's been really good this year, can't he? Dwayne Haskins has struggled mightily. McLaurin's been really good.
That's the only bright spot that the Washington Redskins have this year. But that game was more competitive up in Green Bay than I thought it would be.
Yeah, me too. I thought Green Bay blow them out.
Yeah.
Ravens and Bills. Lamar Jackson shaking the defender out of his socks before getting upfield.
All right, listen, Canty, you were an outstanding nose tackle, defensive tackle. You won a Super Bowl, but be honest with me. How glad are you that you don't have to go up against
I'm
Lamar?
so glad I don't have to worry about Lamar Jackson, but that's fundamental football right there. Matt Milano's got to keep the quarterback on his upfield shoulder. He cannot allow Lamar Jackson to get outside like that. All your help is on the inside.
And not even a great Lamar game, but that's a great Lamar play right there.
Lakers and T-Wolves, LeBron James showing how washed he is there with the seismic slam.
LeBron with another 30 and 10 game and wasn't even close to the best Laker last night because the brow goes for a nice little 50 piece as the Lakers get another easy win. Look at LeBron, though. Offhand, not offhand, right hand, but not the hand you expect him to dunk with going that way. Look at that. Come on, young. Get up.
He's the best player in the NBA.
There you
Just
go.
Call it what it is. He's the best.
There you go.
Little G-League action. Grand Rapids forward Dante Hall. That was big.
That's why you don't take the charge, right, Nick? That's why you always challenge at the rim.
My guy. Because at least even if you challenge there, maybe you lose, but you don't get mortified.
Yeah, that's
and
bad.
You got called for the block, and you got boomed on, and he stepped over you, and you showed up on the show.
Not great.
Mortified.
Pivotal NFC West matchup yesterday between the Rams and the Seahawks, and we finally saw that Sean McVay high-powered offense again. Jared Goff passing for 293 yards and 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley adding 113 total yards and a touchdown. As the Seahawks snap their 5-game win streak, Rams win it 28-12. Nick, how seriously do we have to take the Rams in the NFC, or judging by your face, not very serious? Not very seriously
at all.
Okay.
Listen,
I did a good judge there, didn't I?
If they hadn't blown that home game to Tampa early in the year when they scored 40 and lost, if they hadn't gone to Pittsburgh when Pittsburgh was on their second or third quarterback and only allowed 17 and lost, then we'd be talking about something here. We'd be talking about, is this a team that had a little Super Bowl malaise, you know, it shook it off, and now is going to be a dangerous 6th seed? But how seriously do I have to take a team that's going to miss the playoffs? Not that seriously. And so, listen, credit to the Rams for getting a win that I did not expect yesterday. I thought Seattle would win. I thought Seattle was going to be able to keep pace with San Francisco, if not take the outright lead in the division, because I didn't think San Francisco was going to do what they did in New Orleans. And so that's an excellent win. And it does speak, though, to where we've changed our expectations with this team, Canny, when in a game where Cooks has 0 catches for 0 yards, obviously. Todd Gurley, it felt like he had a huge game, and then you're like, oh, 23 for 79, 120-yard run. And Jared Goff has 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. We're like, man, that Rams offense is back. I think it speaks to where they had been up until the last couple weeks. So the season's not going to be an embarrassment for them. They're not going to finish with 6 or 7 wins. We know that now. But I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs, and I still think they're going to be in big, big trouble going into next season because of the contracts they have on that team moving forward.
Yeah, I think they're going to come up just short. Their next 3 games at Dallas, at San Francisco, and then home against Arizona in Week 17. That San Francisco game is the one that you look at and say, 8-ball says doubtful that they'll be able to go in there and get a win. But, I mean, listen, the playoffs started a couple of weeks ago for the Rams when they had that Monday night loss to the Baltimore Ravens. But they've won 5 out of the last 7, so you give them credit for that. But you just recognize because they got off to the slow start, their margin for error was razor thin. But last night, you got to give them credit.
It was a good win for them last night.
It was a good win for them. They beat a division opponent at home. Now, I don't know why I got on that Seattle Seahawks corner with Nick Wright after what he said on Friday, because I should have known better. It was a short week for the Seattle Seahawks because they played on Monday night and then going on the road against a division opponent who had their back up against the wall. But listen, Jared Goff played well, especially in the first half of that game. He continued what he did in that game that he had against Arizona, where he threw for 400 yards. And I think it was a situation where that offense was clicking early. First 2 drives, 8 plays, 75 yards, capped by a Malcolm Brown touchdown run, and then 12 plays, 85 yards. So I just looked at that in terms of them dictating dictating the complexion of the game, and Seattle just could not make enough plays offensively. I thought they had a chance late in that third quarter after the missed field goal, and they had a 3rd and 7 in plus territory, and then Aaron Donald comes up with the sack, and they end up forcing the punt, and I thought that was the difference in the game.
I did think the Rams' defensive front was outstanding. Russell Wilson was under duress the entire game.
The 5 sacks don't tell the whole story because they were getting after him.
Even more so than that. I agree. I thought the Rams' defense really played a brilliant football game. I can't take them seriously as a contender because of, like you said, they'd have to run the table the rest of the way. I don't think they can go to San Francisco and get a win.
But it was one of those, did the Rams play well? Did Seattle play terribly? You don't really know who sort of you would place all the, give the kudos to. But I'm wondering if you think that this hurt Seattle's Super Bowl chances at all, the loss and the way they lost yesterday.
Well, the one thing I do worry about with Seattle is not necessarily been the most consistent group on the offensive side of the ball. And then they lost Rashad Penny on the first drive. And a knee injury, we'll have to wait for the diagnosis, see how that goes. But he never came back in the game, and he had been playing really, really well. So I just worry about that offense being able to do enough, being able to score enough points, because that defense has been Jekyll and Hyde for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, they showed up yesterday in the second half. Quadri Diggs, a couple of takeaways, including the pick 6 early. But that defense has got to be better in order for this Seahawks team to really be taken seriously as a contender.
So listen, so people are going to, I think, overreact to the impact this has on Seattle's standing, because if they'd have won today, they wake up as the 1 seed. They lose, they end up waking up as a 5 seed. With that said, Seattle still has it all in front of them because they beat San Francisco earlier, and they have San Francisco in Week 17. That Week 17 Niner game, mark it down now. It's going to be 13-2 San Francisco against 12-3 Seattle, with the winner winning the division and assuredly getting a bye, and the loser falling all the way to the 5 seed. So this loss was oddly one they could handle as far as their positioning. Where it's concerning is it's now a month of Russell Wilson going from running away with the MVP to not playing great. Since Week 10, 4 touchdowns, 4 picks, 1 pick in each of these last 4 games. His passer rating's down 83 after the first 8 weeks of the year, 9 weeks of the year. It was 119. And that defense has not gotten better. Like the Seahawks defense again allows 25-plus points. Warren Sharp pointed this out on Twitter. They've made a living all year about falling down big early, double digits early, being down at halftime, and finding a way to come back. Man, eventually you crap out. Like, eventually your luck runs cold on that. So that, to me, is the bigger concern for Seattle than the individual loss, because they still can win this division. They still can get a bye. I think they're going to win the next 2. I think the next 2 are Carolina and Arizona. Yep. They shouldn't have trouble there. And then the huge matchup at home against San Francisco. But it's more stylistically, they were winning by a lot of Russell Wilson magic. And if that magic does not reappear in the final quarter of the season, then they don't have a whole ton of paths to being a Super Bowl contender.
Well, they need that magic to reappear, but they also need that defense to play better. Keep in mind, when they beat the San Francisco 49ers on that Monday night game, that was one of Jadeveon Clowney's best game, if not his best game, the entire year. Quadri Diggs also had a huge interception in that one, too. So they need that defense in order to be at their best and compete with the better teams in the NFC. But if you're talking about this Seattle Seahawks team, I do not have confidence, if they have to start the playoffs as a wild card, that this team can win 3 straight road games in order to get to the Super Bowl. I feel like this is a team that has to be able to be one of those top 2 seeds in the NFC in order to give themselves a chance in order to be a contender.
Do you agree with Canny, or was this a hiccup for this team last night?
Well, no, I think that they have to. I think the Niners, the whole NFC right now is so confusing, because it's so much of it is going to come down to who gets the buys, to your point. I agree that Seattle, if they don't win that Week 17 game against San Francisco, and they're on the road in Week 1 of the playoffs, and then have to go either to San Francisco, New Orleans, Green Bay, their path to the Super Bowl all of a sudden evaporates.
All right, let's take a break. Coming up, are the 49ers the best team in the NFC after yesterday's thrilling win? That's next on First Things First.
What game?